Hi there, and thank you so much for joining me. My name is Ian Mingo, and I'm glad to have you on board to this channel. I started my series on Ground Up, okay, and what I've been looking at is the various approaches or some simple things that I feel will be helpful to you as you start your cloud journey. Now, today we'll actually be looking in this video how to create a static website or how to host a static website on AWS. Now, we'll be doing that based off EC2 and then also not just EC2, but also with the S3, right? So I have this site here, okay, which I would want to use for the demonstration, and I have that on GitHub. So what I'll do first of all is to clone that to my local repository or my local machine. Okay, so do a git clone, okay, and then I could paste the link here, right? So it just clones that for me, and if I cd into this particular folder, you get to see all of the files there. Now what I'll do next is to go to my S3 bucket. So I head to my S3 bucket here, and then I upload the files in there. So I first create a bucket and I'm going to upload the files. So let's see. I create the bucket. Now, what name can I give to that? So since there's a test, let's see, test2 dot, I could do that test2.com, it doesn't matter. And of course, if I want to copy settings from other buckets, that's possible. And in terms of the other items which are listed here, I'll just keep them by default and then untick this for the public access. So I want people to have, the public to have access to that. So I just untick that, which is good. And then I have to confirm that I really want to untick that. Now, after that is said, I'll keep the rest of the items here as they are by default and then create my bucket. So I hit on create bucket and it tells me that this name actually already exists. Okay, so test2, let me add test again and see. All right, so test2.com, and then I could go ahead and then save that. So that's one thing to note, bucket names are pretty unique. Okay, so if you are prompted that, okay, that name already exists, you definitely have to create a new one. So let's see, I have my test2 bucket here, and then now I can go ahead and then upload my files in there. So I'll upload both the files and then the folders. So let's see, let me add the files first. Let's see here. All right, so I have this here. So I add these ones, and then I could add the folders also. So the folder CSS and then image. So I'll add them one by one. Upload. So let me add also for the image. I don't need to actually add the git folder. All right, that's not yet. So once I have the selection done, I could hit upload, and then we could go ahead from there. So there are two things I need to do, okay, after this is done. So first off, I'll have to make sure that my bucket is actually yet or structured or configured to host a static website. So I go to properties, and there are some number of properties here, but I scroll to the very bottom where I get to see the static website hosting. I could edit that and then enable it. Okay, now I keep all the things here by default, but with the index file I could specify what particular file should the site point to, which is the index.html. So that's that. And of course I could add some redirection rules. Okay, these are all things you could check out. You could check more from that here, and then I could save my changes. So once that is saved, I could still come back here, and you see that what I have test2. So let me click on that here. Now when I click on that, it's actually going to give me an error. Okay, and that is where our second task actually comes in. Okay, that is where our second task comes in. So I have to go back to the permissions, right? Now, when I come to permissions, there are a number of permissions which are available here, but what I need is the backend policy. So I edit that, and I already have the code available, the JSON code available. So I paste that here, and with that pasted, I have to change the resource. So the resource I'm working with is what? Test2, test2.com. So I have to make sure that I state that test2, test2.com, the / and then I need to make sure that what the asterisk is also added. So let's see. Let me save the changes, and then that is done. So with that done, let me come back here. Let me refresh this page, and you see that what I have my site available. Okay, so that is that. So let's see if I wanted to see portfolio.html. Let's see if that would show portfolio.html, and yeah, that shows. Yeah, so that shows here. So you see a number of things that I was going to work with or work for. All right, so that's working fine. So that's good. Now, so that's that for the S3. You see that it's very simple and then straightforward. But I want us to take that a step further, and let's try doing the same thing with the EC2. Of course, there will be some bit of technicalities in there. All right, but we'll just breeze through that, and then we'll be able to go. So we want to create an instance, so we can just wherever we find the term launch instance, so we can go to even instances here and then launch from there or from the default page. So let's see, I click on launch instances, and then let's type the name. So let's still make this test2, test2.com. All right, so that remains the name that we are going to be working with. And then with the image, we are going to use the Amazon Linux image. Let's change the instance type to T3 micro. Okay, so let's go with the T3 micro. So I come here. Oh, all right. I think we could still even maintain the T2 micro. Okay, let's go with the T3. No worries. So we go with the T3 micro. Okay, and then with the key pair, right? We don't really need a key pair since we are going to use the EC2 instance connect. Now for the network, we maintain whatever is there. Okay, so it's going to use the default one. Now with the firewall, so we create a new one. Now if you had an existing one, we could also have that. And then the key thing, since it's an HTTP site or it's a website, we need to allow traffic from the internet via the HTTP protocol. So we just make sure that that is done. And then once that is done here, we can launch the instance. So we launch that, then we can connect to that. We set up our server, okay, because we would actually in this case, I would actually be installing how do you call it? I'll be installing a PHP server, okay, so an Apache server. All right, so that's that. Let's wait for it to run, and let's wait for it to initialize. All right, so we have the status check there, and then we make sure that it's initialized. Now let's look at the details that we have here. So we have quite a number of things in terms of the public IP version 4 DNS, the public IP address, and then if we had an elastic IP address, that would also be attached. Now, if we had also the IP version 6, that would also be something that would be attached. And then, of course, in terms of monitoring, we see some bit of details there, the security group, and then the time it was launched, and then even the service itself, what particular service are we referencing? Okay, so our instance is running, so we can go here now, and then let's see if we can connect. Do we have everything ready? Yes, so we have literally everything ready. So there are quite a number of things here in terms of the details of the instance, so we could always check that out. Now we can go ahead, we want to connect in there, so we hit connect here, and then we select what? EC2 instance connect. So I maintain everything there. I hit connect, and then it's actually going to load a terminal. Okay, it's going to create an instance of the terminal for me where I can now interact with that. So the key things we are going to do is to install the HTTPD and then make sure we can get our code from GitHub. All right. So let me start off. I could actually update that update. Okay. And then it actually requires user permissions or root permissions. So I do that, and then I could still come back here and update. All right, so that's done. Nothing to do. So then I could install. So I first need the server, which is HTTPD. That's the package name when it comes to the AWS Linux. Okay, and then I also need Git. Okay, so I run all of those. I hit a yes here, and then it installs that for me. Okay, so with that said, let me come back to my GitHub again. Let me copy the URL here. Now, of course, based on your need or your website, you might have a different approach to how you're going to install your website. Okay, but in my case, I'll have it this way. All right. So let's see. Let's cd into the root folder for the web server. Okay, so that's here. Now, if I do an ls, okay, you see that there's actually nothing here. Okay, now let's do the clone here. Git clone, and then let me paste the URL here. So I paste my URL here, and then we have that done. Now, once that is done, okay, once that is done, we could have a number of things in there. So if we do an ls, we see that that is there. Let's see into that. And then what we want to do is to copy everything here. Copy everything, okay, and then we want to send it to the one level up. Okay, so we have that done. Let me add a recursive form to that. Okay, yep, it overwrites everything for us. All right, so let's do an ls here. We have that here. Let's go back. All right, so we see that what we have that created for us. Now, don't worry about all of those things. It's more or less us copying whatever we had in there. Okay, and then we can go ahead. Now, I needed to add a recursive because there were some folders in there as well. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why. So with the CSS and then the image, so I need to add that recursive or that particular tag. So with that said, let's see. So we have our public IP address. So let's copy that and let's see what we have showing. Okay, so we copy that here. Let's paste that here. Okay, let's see what we have. Okay, it tells us that the site cannot be reached. So let's try something here. Let's try and then restart our server. So service, okay, HTTPD restart. Okay, all right, so it actually restarted that for us. Let's refresh the page and see. And what do we have here? We have our website available. Okay, so we have that here, and then we also have that on the GitHub. Okay, so on the S3 bucket. So the S3 bucket, this is it. And then let's try with the portfolio, right? So with the portfolios, was it portfolios? I think it was portfolios. Yep. Yeah, portfolio.html. And it tells us that it couldn't find that. Okay, I did not type that right. So once I have that here, portfolio, then you see that what it actually shows that for me. All right, so it's as simple as that in actually trying to host your static website on the EC2 and the S3. So with that said, I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope you got to learn a thing or two, and that this would also be helpful for your journey as you journey into the cloud. Now, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask, and then I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. Now, with that said, I want to thank you for joining, and I'm Ian Mingo, and I'm your instructor.